ghostwriter.tv at 9 p.m. this 23rd day of June 2022. And we have a first-time guest. And boy, does she have a lot to share with us in so little time. We are streaming, we are recording our bumpers from Chapter and Waiting. We'll switch to Studio 19 after this game. Well, good evening. Welcome. This is pjnet.tv. I'm Coach Prasick, and it is always a special occasion when we welcome a first-time guest, and that is the case tonight. And she has a lot to share. I don't know how we're going to pack all this in just the 20 minutes that we have, but on our screen, welcome Tama Fortner, who is the author of 40 books. Now, you want to let's just talk about all 40? You can dedicate about, 30 seconds to each one?
I'll just start ticking them off here.
Tick them off. You began your writing journey at 8 years old, so I guess you wrote your first book at 8, and now you've had time to do 40. Now, does that 40 include those that you've ghostwritten?
It does. That includes all the books that I've done, yeah.
Okay. Well, so these facts cannot be verified. We just take your word for it.
But I don't actually do much of the traditional ghostwriting where I'm anonymous. I have not really included those. I guess you would call it more like collaboration, because I do usually have my name on there. It's just in a much smaller font under the author's name. So not the traditional ghostwriting so much.
Yeah, we've Michelle Medlock Adams has ghostwritten many, and I tease her because you say, well, how, we can't, why do you even bring that up? Because we can't talk about it. We can't.
People in the industry understand. They know. we still count.
Well, you've written, again, 40 books. That's a lot. And you don't look old enough to have that many books written. But now, primarily, these are children's and young. I mean, it's at a younger audience, right?
Yes. I write mostly for children's. I mean, anything from, that toddler board book age all the way up to preteen and teenage devotionals. But I am doing some adult books of my own, just starting to get into that in the last few years, as my own kids have grown up and gone to college, and I have a little bit more time to explore my own writing and less of the collaborations.
So you're writing for them? Is that for the kids?
I just kind of grow up with them in my writing.
Your books just follow their chronological age. I'm amazed because, when we see or think about a children's book, we think, oh, it's real simple. Well, your testimony is it really that simple?
It is not. You have these days roughly 600 words for a picture book to tell an entire story. And as Christians, you not only want to tell a story, you want to share a message. And you've got 600 words. And while that might sound like a lot, when you spread it out over 32 pages, it's not very many at all. And so, in a novel, you might get away with a dud sentence here or there. But in a picture book, every word has to really stand up and do its job. So, I might write that first draft in a few hours, but I'm editing over and over and over again for weeks on a little picture book.
Well, and I know everything costs too much, but a lot of people, when they see the price of a children's book, their jaw just hits the floor. But they don't understand the high cost of production because these illustrators are expensive.
Illustrators, of course, they earn their money. They have a God-given talent that makes the picture book so richer. But you've also got that 4-color printing and the extra sturdy binding for those little hands. So there's a lot of cost in there that's kind of hidden from the consumer that drives up those picture book prices. But The books that we read to our kids, they are so special. They become part of their lives. I mean, I don't know about you, but I still remember and treasure the books that I had as a child. They become part of us in a way that maybe older books that we read as we get older, they don't do.
Oh, you know, I think I can. I think I can. I think I
Yeah.
can. It become, it's we're at such an impressionable age. The target
Mhm.
audience of a children's book, and like you said, with only 600 words, I mean, you've got to pray over every word.
Yes. Yes, and that really is the secret to writing these days. I believe is to pray over every word, and I wouldn't claim to be divinely inspired, but I wouldn't dare start writing without God and talking to Him first.
Now, you help build. Yeah, I mean, you're part of the growing up and the socialization of children that you'll never know. Are you looking forward to that day in heaven when some child tugs on your skirt and says, "Hey, your book meant a
Uh,
lot"?
oh wow! God blesses me every once in a blue moon with a glimpse of that. Someone will say, this book changed my life, or this book really helped me understand, or have children write in and talk about how they see this new thing about God. And just every so often I get that little glimpse. And so, I pray that my words have had a kingdom impact. I just kind of pray over them and send them out there and let God do the rest. So, but yeah, that will be a great thing to see happen. Hopefully it will.
How early did your serious effort start? And the reason I'm asking for a reason because
Hmm.
I have privileged information that you got a scholarship to a university that you don't even remember applying to. So how in the world did they find out about you?
Yeah, I still do not know how they found out about me. It was not necessarily through my writing. I was writing then, but only for myself. I don't know. That was totally a God thing. Uh, how that application went through, I no idea. But when I went and did the interview, and we didn't have a lot of money when I was growing up, and we didn't go to church, so I was a poor heathen, so to speak.
A,
Um,
a pagan.
and yeah,
A
and
virtuous pagan, I might
there
add.
you go. But I still remember the gentleman interviewing me and my mom as well, and saying, "We're going to make this happen." And I don't know other than to credit God. It was a small Christian school, and that was where I came to know Jesus and really changed my life in the way that only He can. So just got to give Him all the credit.
I find it fascinating that a university would seek out a full scholarship uh, for a non-believer. That's odd.
And again, I maybe I was their mission field. I don't know. That's one of those questions that maybe in heaven I'll get to meet the person who put us together, that university and I, and get to thank them.
Well, did you learn anything while you were in college?
Oh, I learned a ton.
What did you study?
uh, no, I was an English and history major. Learned a lot about writing. You do a lot of research and writing in those kind of classes, and learn that the basements of libraries are very creepy places when you're researching, because we didn't have the internet back then. We had to go down in the stacks. But mostly I think I learned how to not be afraid to seek out the truth, and that benefited me not only in writing but also in my relationship with God.
Well, if you, of course, I'm the pot calling the kettle black. I majored in sociology and psychology, and
Mm-hmm.
the only thing you can do with a degree like that is teach it. So,
Mm-hmm.
isn't that pretty close to the case of English and history?
It is, and I did get my teaching certification largely because I wanted to be in writing or the publishing industry, but everybody told me that was just not possible.
Hmm.
And so I halfway listened, and I did have my plan B, but I was fortunate enough to land a job not long after I graduated as a children's book editor at a small company, and then moved up to a larger company to Thomas Nelson about 4 or 5 years later. And, again, it just had to be God. I just think this is what He called me to, and what He wants me to do. And I'm just trying to stay out of His way and follow His lead.
So that first job, was that the spark?
Mhm.
Was that the catalyst to your professional writing career?
It absolutely was. You've interviewed a lot of writers. You know that we all get our start in unusual and unique ways. Those first editorial jobs were how I met the people that were kind of the gatekeepers to getting published. Um, and so when I decided to go freelance, I wanted to stay home with my kids. I knew people and they knew me. So, yeah, I kind of got my start that way. That helped me jump into actual professional writing and publishing.
A lot of people that I talk to didn't have the exposure to the formal education that you've
Mm-hmm.
had, and certainly didn't have access to what you call the gatekeepers, which I think is very appropriate. So what they wind up doing is going to conference after writers conference after conference, and those are enjoyable experiences. And yes, they are substantial expenses, but you actually took a different course. Your first writing conference was just recently, and you went as faculty.
I did. I went to the Blue Ridge conference as faculty, teaching, how to write devotions and how to write children's books. I seem to have kind of made a habit of doing things backwards. um, but it's worked out for me, and it was such a joy to meet, some of the authors that whose books I read, but I really enjoyed meeting those new writers and trying to help them perfect their writing craft as well as trying to find their own way through those gatekeepers. So it was a wonderful experience. And if you are a writer, new or experienced, I highly recommend diving into one of those conferences.
So you're there as faculty. Uh, Give us a syllabus, give us a summation of what you were sharing with these,
Mm.
fledgling, blossoming seeds that you're trying to nurture into a blossoming and flowering plant.
Oh, so I actually taught three different classes, one on writing devotions and another on picture books, and then a third on research. And so, we don't have time for a whole syllabus, but the gist of what I try to convey is that as writers, especially as Christian writers, we need to be writing for the joy of writing and for the glory of Him. And if He wants it published, He's going to make a way for that to happen. Doesn't mean we don't do our due diligence, that we don't, go to the writing conferences, that we don't write the blogs and try to keep up with our social media and all those other things they tell us we have to have. Um, but at the heart of it, it really needs to be that joy of writing. If you don't have that joy, it's going to be tough to weather this industry. It's a rough industry. You've got to have a thick skin and a lot of patience, and that joy is what's going to keep you going through those tough spots.
Well, I know that many go, and it's good to stay inspired,
Mm,
and you've got to have hope, and I couldn't agree more, Tama. You need to be purposed if you're going to be a Christian writer. It's like what we do here. Do I wish we had videos that went viral and tens of thousands of views? Well, of course, but that has nothing to do with why we do this.
you know,
It just you've got to. I think of it as an offering to God.
exactly. And I think that's true of any profession for a Christian, really. We need to be in it for the joy. Um, the joy of doing it for him and for those opportunities he sneaks in, regardless of our profession, to tell others about him. So yeah, absolutely. It comes back to the joy and to him.
Well, earlier today, we were discussing that you have some 40 books that have your name somehow connected to it, and I said we can put one on the screen. I don't know if we could fit 40 on the screen. And you selected this one, 100 Things God Loves About You. Why this one?
A couple of reasons. It actually just re-released. It's a few years old, but Zondervan just re-released it with a brand new design and cover. So in some ways, it's the newest one, but it's also one of the ones that's closest to my heart. Um, I want people to know that God delights in them. That's one of my favorite verses is Psalm 18:19 is that God rescued us because he delights in us. And yeah, we've got some work to do. Yeah, we've got some imperfections that he needs to help us through, but everything that he did from creation to the gift of his son was because he loves us. And in our daily lives as well as just in a general way. And so that's kind of what this book was about. Just 100 little quick devotions about something that God loves about us.
When you say quick, how long did it take to read one devotion?
Oh, these are 2 to 3 minute devotions. They're very
Really?
quick,
They're
but
okay.
deep, but they're deep.
Well, did it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, you you honed your craft of being well, what's the word I'm looking for? Making every word count. So when you've got a 2 to 3 minute devotion targeted at an adult,
Hmm.
that's taking that experience from your children's books to an adult level. Am I right?
Yes, you're exactly right. Writing children's books, you have to really condense your message into something clear and concise and short. Um, and that translates over, I think, into my devotions. Some of them do get longer than 2 to 3 minutes, but this particular book is shorter. But in our busy lives, sometimes we need that grab and go,
Mhm.
that quick little fix of a devotional thought in between our Bible study times. I never want my devotions to take the place of Bible study times, but that little quick fix now and then is nice, I think.
Yeah, think of it as a booster. Think
Yes.
it's part of our popular culture now. Get your booster shot. And um, at a young age, you have
Mhm.
accomplished very much. Is there anything left in your a bucket list, a goal? I mean, you could quit now, and you have done a lot.
Um, you know, I mean, there are sometimes I think I might like to dabble in fiction. I've only done nonfiction, but for the most part, I don't have a career bucket list necessarily. I am just enjoying the day to day,
Mhm.
writing whatever pours into my mind, whatever God blesses me with that day, and then seeing what God and in conjunction with my agent does with it. So I'm just kind of riding the wave, so to speak, I guess.
Well, you have put in the time and honed your craft over those years, and you have put it to good use, and you've been a good steward of those gifts that God has given you, and it's been a joy. I wish we had more time, but Tama, thank you. I put your website up on the screen, tamafortner.com. Obviously, we can't cover everything in 20
Yeah.
minutes, but it's been a joy speaking with you, Tama, and we hope that whatever God leads you to next, that you will continue your service in His kingdom, and we appreciate you sharing that with us tonight.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for what you do to share his kingdom.
Well, thank you, Tama. We appreciate you. That is Tama Fortner here on pjnet.tv. And her name is still up there, or her website is. Well, gosh, I wish we would have had more time, but I've got to actually close this studio now and prepare and go down the hall and dust off another studio. So we have a first-time guest who has brought a guest with her coming up at the bottom of the hour. While I'm doing that, I have an assignment for you. It's actually a challenge, and it's something that has helped me in my life. I just want to share it with you. Ask yourself these two questions. What is the boldest thing that you've ever done for Jesus Christ? The second question is, when was that? And the challenge is to never be satisfied with either answer.